Welcome, family, and thanks for coming on by and joining your brother. Once again, I'm bringing to you a question, something that I was asked, and something that might be on your mind. Again, I'm just going to give you my opinion. I can't be wrong because it's my opinion. As your brother, I want you to be informed before making a decision. You can't really make a decision, you can't make a well-informed decision without knowing the total story. You got to hear more than just a person that's pitching to sell to you. You got to hear people's voices from outside the bubble. Don't mean that you're going to agree with them. Don't mean that you have to take their advice. But you need to know all the consequences so you can make an informed decision so you will not feel manipulated. Taking away your free will is a great problem and something that you can't really get over. All right, family. This question here that was brought to me several times throughout the few years, but somebody recently brought it up again, was should I adopt my lady's child? Deep question, deep question. All right, so what I'm going to say, if you brought this question to your brother, I'm going to tell you like this. I know two things. I'm assuming, not know, but I'm assuming two things. I'm assuming that you, one, love your lady, and two, you love that child. So, out of love, you feeling though this is the right thing to do. I will ask a question. Why is it important for you to adopt this child? Give me something other than love. Why is it important for you to adopt this child? Because whose idea was it for you to adopt this child? Was it yours or someone else's? Let's think back. Many of you, if you were my age group, grew up, especially during that crack epidemic that swept the country. Many of us was raised by our grandparents, aunts, uncles, or a friend, family friend. Many of us. And you, answer this for real. If you was in that situation, you never thought about that person adopting you unless somebody planted in that seed in your head. All you cared about was you had a stable home to stay in. May not have been the best, but was better than where you was at. And somebody took you in and somebody showed you love as they knew it. May not have been the best again, but they gave you what they knew, the best that they could do. And that's all we can ask, somebody to do the best that you can do. All right, so you never thought about adoption. And we're going to keep it real. You never thought about it. Somebody else would have to bring it up and put that seed versus somebody, an adult, somebody at school, another kid, but somebody, all you cared, your basic needs was being taken care of and you was being loved. What more could you ask? All right, so sometimes you gotta think about all the consequences of adoption. Yeah, you're thinking about the good part, but why should you adopt this kid? Now, everybody I know that asked me this question all turned out the same way. They just could have been a bad bunch. But the way I see it is, I would take care of this child as my own. The kid has a father. I'm the dad. So I could be the dad to this child, show this child how a man's supposed to be, show this child how a man's supposed to treat a woman, and impart my morals and values onto this young man, and show our young woman, and show by example through our relationship what's expected of them as they mature and grow older, because we always got to keep in mind what type of man or woman we going to raise. I could love this child, care for this child, treat this child like my own, but why should I adopt this child? Another thing to keep in mind is when you go to court, you always got to think, if you're going to adopt this child, you have to go to court. So you always have to leave your emotions on the sideline whenever you go to court. I don't care what court you go to. Leave your feelings at the door, pick them back up when you leave. Court is business. If you got to go to court and do something, that's a contract. That has legal consequences. You need to make an informed decision and be sure about what you're going to do before you proceed. Now, just thinking, if I was to go to court to adopt a child, I would like to introduce some paperwork before we move forward with the adoption and have it part as the adoption, such as if we split up, I'm not responsible for child support. See how they take that one. They may try to flip it. Oh, you saying we're going to break up? Why you worried about us breaking up? You planning for us to fail. No, why won't you sign this? If we going to be happily ever after, it shouldn't matter if you sign this or not. See where their feelings really lie. Because let me tell you this, everybody that I know, there's about 10 of them throughout the years, but in the recent couple years, it's been about 3. They all adopted their significant other's child, and none of them worked out. I don't know if the adoption piece caused it or the one was planning on leaving from the beginning, but from my perspective, their scenarios, at the time they thought it was all love and everything was doing great, but after they adopted and a few years later, they split up. Some of them end up back with the child's father. Now, you sitting there paying child support while they up there living with the child's father, and you feeling like a fool. And now, child support is out the picture so she can be with the man she wants to be. Some of you have to be careful, especially those in the military. You have to be careful about adopting children. State to state, it's different. Military branches could be different. Some, you're going to adopt this child. It comes with more consequences, more financial consequences than you realize. You adopting out of love instead of looking at it as a business scenario. And why should you adopt this child? I can't get past that hurdle. The only way that I can see myself adopting a child would be something like if something happened to a brother of mine, or if you had a sister, something happened to one of your siblings, and you want to adopt that child. If you with your significant other, and maybe they had cancer or some life-threatening disease, but only had a few years left, and to bring by stability in this little one, because the little one knows that their caregiver is, their mother is going to pass away, could bring stability. You want to bring some stability into that young person's life. So you may go ahead and adopt it in those scenarios. But outside of that, if the father's still alive and they got that whole side of the family, I shouldn't have to adopt. I can take care of the child. I can provide for the child. Shoot, I can even get some kind of order to show y'all living with me and get the child on my insurance. But I don't have to adopt the child. All right. So that's my thoughts roughly on adoption. I know I'll probably get some hate in this video, but the thing is, it's not about getting thumbs up or thumbs down on this video. The key is I'm your brother, and I'm trying to tell you the full picture, the full scope. You adopt. If y'all separate, child support is there. Maybe some other type of support. You have some other financial commitments. And if she moves on and happen to move back with the person, how can you live with that? And those of us who growing up with grandparents or someone else caregiving us, we never thought as a child that they should adopt us. People use children to come up to you to try to convince you to adopt them. The mother is, or somebody, grandmother, somebody's putting it in that child's head. And they know that you love the child and that's your weakness, so that's why they put the child up to do their bidding. All right, family. Adoption does work out for some families. Works out for a lot of families, but I just want to let you know, full picture, some of the pitfalls that you could be in. Because imagine if you adopt a child, y'all separate, you can't see the child, and now you're paying child support on top of that. And the mom's back with the child's father. Because child support is no longer an issue. So financially, she's taken care of by you. You got to be careful. They mess around and get a new house, get a new car, and then it's under one of the divorce talking about they have to maintain a certain lifestyle. You got to be careful. All right, family, that's my 2 cents. This ain't about liking or disliking. This is just about giving you something to think of, because I'm sure everyone you talking about is telling you to adopt this child. You got to think things through. You can love this child, take care of this child without going to court for adoption. If you do go to court, leave your feelings at the door. This is all about business. Court is legal and it has consequences. Don't matter what court you go to. All right, family, till next time, peace, and I love y'all.